So we return now to the original scenario of Jairus' daughter. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But ignoring what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, he saw a tumult and people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a tumult and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha kumi," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and walked, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. I'll address aspects of both of these miracles. But one we can see, it's interesting that these people don't believe Jesus can work a miracle because the child is dead. So Jesus has to actually put them outside, out of the building. And then he goes just with a few to where she is. And this tells us, this is actually, I say Mark has it in chapter 4 of the Gospel, it's early on. So it's probably early on in Jesus' ministry, because his reputation as a miracle worker who can raise even the dead has not yet got to these people. So we can locate it early on for that reason. And he says to them when they say, "Oh, she's dead," he says she's just sleeping. This shows Jesus senses he has the power, he knows he has the power over death itself. And that what for other people is impossible is perfectly possible for him. And we have also that Jesus says to Jairus, when people are saying the daughter's dead, "Do not fear, only believe." So there is a condition. It's not that Jesus is just going to go in there and raise this child from the dead. He's saying believe. And so it's important for Jesus that the person believes in him and what he can do. And we know that that's actually central to Jesus' ministry, because we have elsewhere that where the people don't believe, it says Jesus could only, in his own town, they didn't believe, so Jesus could work no major miracles there, just do a small number of healings. I think that's Mark 6. It says here, where is it now? In fact, it's straight away afterwards. He went away, I'll carry on. He went away from there and came to his own country, which will be Galilee. And he came to, and his disciples followed him. And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue. And many who heard him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get all this? What is the wisdom given to him? What mighty works are wrought by his hands?" So they're amazed. So it shows us early on in the ministry. "Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph, and Judas and Simon? Are not his sisters with us?" And they took offence at him. So he's just an ordinary fella from their part of the world. So how can he be anybody special? So they took offence at him. And Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honour, except in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house." And he could do no mighty work there, except he laid his hands upon a few sick people and healed them. And he marvelled because of their unbelief. It got to that point. We have this statement, which I got to because I was explaining how important faith is to Jesus. He could do no mighty work there, except that he laid his hands upon a few sick people and healed them. And he marvelled because of their unbelief. So we have our God, Jesus, made the universe. We have Mark 6, verse 5, he could do no mighty work there. Not that he wouldn't do it, not that he wasn't in the mood to do it because they were being miserable and tetchy. He could do no mighty work there. And that shows me, at any rate me, that there's a link in the divine plan with God incarnate on earth, that he is constrained in what he does in some respects by the faith or lack of it of others, though rather than just about fame. Here, Jesus is,
It's about human psychology.
well, on one level that's valid, it's about human psychology, but I'm just saying that on this particular verse I'm talking about, where it says he could do no mighty work there, that's shown a constraint upon Christ. Despite in Mark's gospel, he's shown as absolutely powerful being. I would say Mark's gospel shows him to be God. You have to read it carefully, and one can see it there. But what is interesting for us as Catholics, knowing that Christ is God, that there's a self-imposed limitation on him, which is the faith of other people, the faithlessness of other people will limit the mighty works he can do. And that's part of the self-emptying of Christ that St. Paul talks about in Philippians, I think it is, where he empties himself, taking the form of a servant, becoming like one of us. Philippians 2, I think. And in that self-emptying, his all-powerfulness is constrained by his own will. So, we have that example of the lack of faith, and we get moving on though from that, because we've seen this child who is brought to life after Jesus has cleared out all those who have no faith. So he doesn't want people who lack faith anywhere round, because a mighty work, this mother and father and Jairus and Jairus' wife, the mother of the little girl, have to be there with faith, and Jesus doesn't want their faith damaged by these skeptics who say, she's dead, and they'll laugh at him when he says she's only sleeping. So all that key issue, so Mark's gospel in many ways is a gospel about faith, that we must have it. And I think that we can see in the Catholic Church, when great miracles happen, that faith has to be there. And one can say also that if we don't see great miracles happening in the Western world, great miracles of healing that often, but they happen in areas of the world like sub-Saharan Africa, where people have a great religious sense. They might not be Christians, but they come from a pagan world which is full of spirits and magical powers. So it's easy for them to have faith. Now all that has to be done is that belief, that basic belief in magical powers and worlds of spirits, all that has to be channeled into the belief in the right things. But it's easy when you've got that mentality to have faith, and so great healings can happen. And of course, when you're evangelizing people who are pagan, then in Scripture it seems that God gives special gifts for the conversion of pagans. But once you've got a settled Christian community, you don't necessarily get all those spectacular miracles. And we can see that in Jesus' ministry, lots of spectacular miracles, but as the Christian community develops and settles down over the centuries, these spectacular miracles diminish. But they're there at the borders of the gospel, where the faith is being pushed out into other regions of the world. So yeah, Mark, a gospel of faith.